Hi, this is Yogan Orientals, and I'm gonna talk about the main points about destiny. These main points will be mainly from a point of, do you have to believe anything? Do you have to see the portal for yourself with your own eyes? Do you have to, all those kinds of statements, because I'm in a position where I haven't visited the farm, and also I understood the message on some really rudimentary level when I first heard the message. I should probably share my experience in that point, because the first video I watched was an interview. You can look it up. Maybe I'll post a link so you could access it easily, but I don't know if it's even there anymore because they took down the main channel. And what they said was that they only received 2 warnings, and it's actually standard that you receive 3 warnings before your channel is taken down, apparently, at least for infringement of community guidelines. So they didn't really receive first off, not the minimum number of warnings. But anyway, the video I watched was an interview with Yogananda through the portal, and he talks about whether God truly exists in the world where people are starving, where in a world where not everyone is free, where not everyone is living as God, whereas while there's one being who is not free, who's not realized as himself, how can God exist? And that's a really interesting perspective, because what the Eastern philosophy, which is what Yogananda was from, India, the Buddhism even relates to that, how within their tradition they think that, oh, there is a God already there, it's everyone, and it's already here, it's already established. In this video interview he was saying how that it wasn't established, and it can never be established while there's still one being who hasn't realized himself. And that makes absolute complete sense, because just look at what I just said. How can, if God is everyone, and if one person, and that one person is part of everyone, is not living as God, is not being like God, is not expressing as God in any way whatsoever, how can everyone be God? If a part of everyone, one part of everyone, if there is at least one individual being which is part of what the word everyone stands for, how can everyone be God if there's still one being who isn't free? That doesn't make sense. I can repeat myself over and over for everyone to understand this, but you have to see this clearly. It's just within the words already, it's very obvious. It's just a matter of basic definitions, of basic vocabulary. It's very defined within the word God. Even in Eastern tradition, using their definition, if God is everyone, I'm asking, how can God exist as long as there's one being who isn't living like God, who isn't free? I mean, it's just obvious common sense. You can't argue my point. You can't even attack my point from any position. It's just, what I'm saying is by definition. I'm just, yeah. So as you can tell, this probably will be a really long interview with me. So I watched that video, and that made complete sense, so I wanted to watch another video. I remember watching like the reptilian videos, but that's not really important. What's important was one video in which, in many videos they say this, how how we as humans, as who we are right now existing, everyone is seeing themselves as superior or inferior to something in this world. And for me, I looked out my window and I saw the example of a tree. I saw myself as not equal to a tree, where when I thought, okay, I am equal to a tree, it's like my very center was agitated. I was like, ugh, what? I'm not equal to a tree. That kind of expression, what I just expressed right now. And just by looking at that without any other information, my immediate, you could call it reaction, or I would say my stance, because from that moment forth you really can't look at it at any other way, that it's really ugly, a person saying, oh, I'm not equal to a tree. It's just not something that I want for myself, and something which should just end. The existence of that living, where that statement where I'm not equal to a tree, should just end. Now, obviously there's other influences, other motivations, but nothing, it's like the same thing with the last thing we just discussed. I cannot deny that this is something which has to end, which is me seeing myself as superior to a tree, because it already existed there. So I have to take action, and there's no other way but to take action and to really get rid of that, and getting rid of that reaction of I'm not equal to a tree. I'm essentially taking a stance where I am equal to a tree, where there's no separation. I want to say the word literally, but I would say there is no separation. I am equal to a tree. I'm not trying to speak in any metaphysical sense. I don't think I'm even speaking on a physical, literal sense, but I'm talking about me living a statement for the rest of my life. It's just the sentence, I am equal to a tree. It's just that sentence, I am equal to an umbrella. I'm not saying I'm equal to umbrella with the function and how umbrella functions. I'm not even saying function. Realize I'm just saying I'm equal to an umbrella. I'm not more than an umbrella. I'm not less than an umbrella. I'm equal to an umbrella. And I mean, otherwise I'd be accepting allowing myself to think I'm more than an umbrella, I'm better than an umbrella. Or the other possibilities that I'm thinking myself as less than an umbrella. And none of those statements to me seems acceptable on any level, on any argument, on any position, by anyone. Anyone who tries to say they are more than an umbrella is just being spiteful, being, like I said before, ugly, being untruthful. You cannot be more than anything in this existence. How can a person be more? If you even look at who you are, what you're made of, aren't you like the sum of your pieces? Can you be more than the cell which allows you to see? I mean, there's so many parts of you here which are just, you could say, other beings, other things, other existence of life. And I mean, the arrogance to say that I'm more than my parts is just like an absolute spiteful, ugly statement. And you really cannot argue for this point, because you're arguing for ugliness. You're arguing for this something here which is just shouldn't exist. I mean, it's not like you can try to argue, but it doesn't make sense to argue once you realize this point that it is just pure ugliness. I don't know what other word to use. Spitefulness to use. And okay, so that covers that discussion. And this was really early on. I realized this, like, you know, from day one, maybe you could say, or day 3, I don't know. And yeah. So I'm doing this video partially to address everything. Everything. That there really is no other way for me, and once you realize what I'm talking about, once you understand what I'm talking about, there really is no other way for you. I mean, it's just a point of willingness to see, of willingness to experiment. Because, like, for me, like, up until that point, I was trying to push myself out of the box, like, forcefully. And, you know, I don't know the technique really of how to get myself out, but I was ready to really just consider. And yeah. So based on those 2 points, I was able to go through everything, you could say, through any doubt, any kind of suspicion or fear, or not from a point of getting through it as in really knowing how I was living, knowing that I was responsible for what I was experiencing, and really taking responsibility to stand in a way which reflects that realization that what I experienced sucks, so change it. Which is what I'm doing now practically. But the points of that I talked about earlier, those 2 points, they are what got me really to study how to free myself, to study the methods, the steps, the self-dedication, the self-writing, the self-scrutiny, the self-honesty, the self-push, the self-understanding, self-willingness to consider, self-freedom from the mentally created biases versus the natural bias of being an individual in the whole. Yeah, I could go on, I guess, but